Before we begin, here's how to earn continuing professional education credit for attending this session. Gain valuable insights by attending the podcast, then complete the assessment test to download your certificate. To do this, follow these simple steps. Click on the link in your description to access the session. Create a free account and attend the podcast. After the podcast, take the assessment test and download your certificate. It's easy, and it's free. We highly recommend checking out our subscription. Let's get started.
With your practice and with this beautiful mix of technology and everything, your clients, I'm sure, like the client relationships that you have with your clients, I mean, they are really great. And client relationships are, at the heart of any successful practice.
Yes.
But how does proactive tax planning help deepen that relationship between the accountants and their clients?
Well, I mean, we all throw around that term trusted advisor, but what does that really mean? Or at the end of the day, like, how is someone really a trusted advisor? Well, it's when they're proactively going out of their way to do better for you. And advisory services in general are always proactive, which is a great start to that. Tax advisory, like I said, is the easiest return on investment you can find. And it's like people's least favorite thing to do. And so that is truly the definition of being a trusted advisor, is when you're going the extra mile, you're passionate about what you're doing, the client knows they can always rely on you, and that you're not just going to reactively file some paperwork and shuffle some stuff around. You are going to ask those questions. You're going to go find that extra advisor they might need. You're going to go work with their financial advisor. You're going to ask them what their estate plan is like, even though they really don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
No one wants to create an estate plan, but
No.
you can't just skirt the issue. You're their trusted advisor. You have to quarterback all of these things and make sure that the client's happy, that these other advisors are happy, and that we're doing the best that we possibly can for that client.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of your favorite podcast, We're Trying to Figure It Out, where we explore the more exciting and innovative trends in the world of accounting, tax, and finance. I'm your host, Saul, and today we are joined by none other than Dr. Jackie Meyer, CPA and founder of TaxPlanIQ. Jackie is known for revolutionizing the tax advisory space through proactive planning and cutting-edge AI solutions. We'll dive into her journey, her development of the ROI model of value pricing, and the impact of AI in accounting. Jackie, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Saul. I'm really excited to talk about all of those things.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, before we get into these exciting topics of tax planning and AI, let's start with a bit of your background. Can you share us the journey that led you to create TaxPlanIQ?
Sure. Wow. Okay. So it's been quite the journey. I recently wrote a book to wrap up my doctorate, and I was able to kind of reflect back on my life and see how all the pieces come together. I highly recommend it for anybody that's like, how did I get to today? Right. But my undergrad was actually in finance. I knew that I didn't grow up with a lot of money, but I wanted to be able to take care of myself. And so a business major was going to do that for me. I worked full time throughout college. And so I was very distracted all the time. I mean, I was a loan officer for a short period of time. I was a waitress at Fox and the Hound. That was not for me. There were just a lot of odd jobs here and there. And I started working for a really small CPA firm in Fort Worth, Texas, and he had me start doing tax prep. And a light bulb went off of me, or the passion went off of me, and I was like, I love magically finding money for people and figuring out where there's deductions, credits. It's like the weirdest passion, but I fell in love with it. And then I went back, got my master's in accounting and taxation, and then ended up starting my own firm. And I ran my own concierge CPA firm for about 12 years. I sold that in 2022. I
Mhm.
started TaxPlanIQ during COVID, which is a tax advisory software for other accountants and advisors. And here we are today with an 8-figure bootstrapped valuation. And I've got a team about 15, and we're just loving life. We are loving seeing the impact that we're having on the industry.
Wow, wow, you had an amazing journey, So, how has your experience running a CPA firm shaped your approach to tax advisory services?
Oh, it was everything. I've struggled with all the problems that the typical accountant and advisor do. Burnout. Ended up getting diagnosed with chronic fatigue, which is a real condition. I've had people laugh at it when I say that. They think I'm joking, but no, it's for real. And that was after having kids because you can't go from those crazy work hours, middle of the night work hours during tax busy season, have children, have a family, and then expect to continue that. It's just not, doesn't work. The math doesn't work. And
Mhm.
so I experienced burnout. I experienced the chronic fatigue diagnosis and a lot of investment in my own health to get better. And I realized something really fundamental had to change about my practice. It was very traditional. Was a multi-service firm. I was a small firm. And I didn't really want to delegate much. I wanted to micromanage everything. And so I made two big investments. One was a coach for myself to help
Right.
me reevaluate the entire firm. Who am I working with and why? And a second thing was team members. You have two choices. One, you can do it alone and you're only going to go so far. Or
Yep.
two, you hire a team, you trust the team, you delegate the team, and you take the firm that much further. And that's what I wanted to do. So
Yeah.
those were kind of two big investments that I made. I completely transformed my firm, leading with tax advisory. We wouldn't even take a client that we couldn't find 200% plus return on investment in their financial gains, but also the intangibles. You know,
Mhm.
just bringing that peace of mind, having unlimited access to us. There's all these different things that you can really bring a competitive advantage to the table. And so it transformed my firm, it transformed my life. And that's why I created TaxPlan IQ was to really take things next level for other accountants to do the same because it was a lifesaver for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And you talk about, tax planning. So, let's dive into those one of those key areas, proactive tax planning.
Yeah.
It's often said that, tax planning shouldn't be left until the last minute. So, why do you believe proactive tax planning is such a high value service for accountants?
Oh my goodness. It is the fastest, easiest ROI that you'll ever get for a client. You can
Hmm.
look at their last file 1040. You can actually determine 90% of business and personal strategies from that prior year return and then be a detective, ask a few questions, pop it down on a piece of paper or software, right? And show like instant $20,000 tax savings year one. Year two forward, you're repeating that savings over and over again. And that's an average for a very small business owner. High net worth, larger businesses, you can get up into the hundreds of thousands of instantaneous savings.
Yeah.
And it's so freaking complicated. Tax advisory is so overwhelming for people. That's another
Okay.
thing I love about it is that like you hear taxes and you want to run the other way or stick your head in the sand. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm going to confront you, tax advisory. I'm going to learn it. If I don't know the answer, I'm going to find it. And it's just been so fun being like a lifelong learner. It's learning is like my favorite hobby. And so
Hmm.
I like to just tackle those things head on, find the savings, and then value price those results for the client so that it's win-win for everybody.
Well, that's splendid. Could it be possible for you to share an example of how early tax planning has made a significant impact in one of your clients?
Oh, of course. Oh my gosh, there's so many. My firm was very boutique. At the end, I had 56 clients and I was able to still sell for 7 figures, which was really a blessing. In 2022, right before all the private equity stuff started ramping up. But it's because of the tax advisory, the subscription based pricing that we did and whatnot. So, oh gosh, what's one example? There's just so many. I know it's like, just tell us one. I remember a client that was going to sell their company. This was a
Okay.
client that came to me and told me they had started their business that year. And they're like, I'm going to make $1 million this year. And I'm like, yeah, right. 99% of companies do not hit that in year one. And this guy
Yeah.
did.
Mm-hmm.
And he is like one of the smartest people I've ever met, has one of the most amazing stories. But I was like, I'll believe it when I see it. Well, it happened. He grew so fast. He
Mm-hmm.
developed a software product alongside this consulting company that he was doing. And he started getting these huge offers in. Software is valued, what, 8, 10, 20 times, sometimes more than your annual recurring revenue.
Yep.
Unlike CPA firms, unfortunately, which are maybe going to get you like 1.5 to 2 times ARR
Yep.
at its most. And
Yeah.
so he had this amazing offer come in, and he's like, "Wait a minute, I'm going to give 10% charity, of course. I need to make sure that this is maximized for my family." And
Yep.
so, based on the timing where he told me early enough on in that transaction, before like a letter of intent was offered and whatnot, we were able to transfer those shares into a charitable trust. We were able to donate a ton to charity and then set his family up for success. It saved him, I believe, about $4.5 million just from putting a few hours of strategic thought together about how we wanted this transaction to come together and what we wanted to do with that money at the end of the day. And I
Wow.
quarterbacked that. I was really proud because I quarterbacked that transaction between me, his financial advisor, who happens to be a really good friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
After the fact, we became besties. We realized our sons were in the same class in school, and we didn't even know that, but that's a different
Wow.
story. And an estate planner, the charitable fund that he really wanted to make sure and donate to. And so we all had these like big powwows of how we were going to like impact these causes and really impact his legacy. And it was just a lot of fun.
Do you want to earn CPE credit? Take this course of MyCPE 1 to earn free credit. Click the link in the description to get started.
Wow. That's really interesting. We all love it when a plan comes together, right?
Oh, yes,
So,
for sure. Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't. But, when the stars align, no, it's not the stars aligning. It's strategic thought and meetings and proactive planning. And that's how it all comes together.
no, absolutely, absolutely. There is a shift. There is a paradigm shift that has happened. There was a time when it comes to taxes at the end of the year, the infamous shoebox full of receipts comes
Yeah.
across, and then you're doing those tax returns, and then you're done.
After the end of the year, right? You don't even think
After
about
the,
it till next year. Now, here's the big misnomer with tax advisory is that
yeah.
you have to do it in December. And
Mm-hmm.
I am like, please, no, let's not just take all of our holiday season away from us.
Yeah.
So let's start a little earlier. Even when you're prepping that tax return from the prior year, you can start planning for the existing tax year. My
Yep.
clients always knew exactly what to expect with their tax liability. Every
Yeah.
quarter, we would adjust, say, okay, expect to pay 100K next April. Or, oh, okay, I think doing this strategy, we'll be able to reduce that to 40K. And so it
Right.
was so nice for them to always know that, because if you've been in the situation where they don't know that, and then they go in, get their tax return from you, and are like, I owe $70,000, and you feel like you're the worst, like, scum of the earth because you didn't tell them early enough, but they didn't tell you any of that information until then, right? And so
Yeah. Yeah.
there's responsibility on both sides, but just ask. Just ask earlier, value price that work that you can bring to the table, and everyone is so much happier for it. We started doing net promoter scores, NPS scores at my firm, probably
Wow.
way too many years late. We don't think about this stuff early on. But
Yeah.
once we did, I was scared to do it because I was scared what my clients really thought of us. And I did it right when we started transitioning to leading with tax advisory. And then,
Mhm.
every year after that. And consistently, the NPS scores went up and up and up. Um,
Wow.
as people were paying us more and more and more, because I started charging $150 for a 1040 tax return. I ended an average of $15,000 to $20,000 that a client was paying us annually, plus implementation fee that we would charge that tended to be more than that just to get the strategies going for them.
Absolutely. I guess, you bring up a very interesting point from that traditional approach of charging per return to creating this value-based pricing, which is, I think, a unique model that you adopted, the ROI method of value pricing.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So let's discuss about that. It's a game changer in how accountants can price their services. It's been talked about. But how does this method help accountants communicate the value they bring to the clients?
Yeah. So something really exciting is coming in the next month or so.
Uh-huh.
I've been using this pricing method. I created the ROI method of what I call value pricing, but we might just get rid of the value pricing because I know people are kind of fatigued with that word. They're like, oh, what does that mean? This is a true calculator. This is a
Okay.
tool that you can plug in your numbers and get a
Mhm.
weighted average of different factors to figure out for the client. And we have this in TaxPlanIQ, but I'm actually co-releasing it complimentary to one of the world's largest accounting societies out there. And what that's going to do is going to be transformational to our industry because there has never been an exact calculatable or measurable method out there, and that is what we were bringing to the table. So I'm really excited. Now, let's take a step back. What's the history of how we bill? Well, in the
Absolutely.
1920s, attorneys decided they were going to bill by the hour. And so
Hmm.
around like 1940s or so, accountants are like, well, I don't have a better idea. So I think we'll just copy that model and we'll be all the better for it, right? And so it
Uh-huh.
was all about, okay, well, I started at a 50 an hour, then I'll go to 100 an hour, then a 150 an hour. But then technology started coming into play.
Hmm.
Knowledge started coming into play. We have so much knowledge now and power. And the
Hmm.
technology that we use makes us that much more efficient. And so something that would have taken us maybe 20 hours before maybe only takes us one. And that severely undermines or undercuts that hourly value. And it doesn't align the value you're bringing to the table with what you are offering to the client. In fact, you want to minimize the hours that you spend on a client because you don't want to overbill them, right? So
Yeah.
the ROI method is from the very first interaction with the client, you
Mhm.
identifying financial gains, financial savings, whether that's reducing their operating costs or increasing their accounts receivable turnover that maybe produces 20,000 more a year for them, or the tax savings, which I think is the easiest ROI in it all. It's very easy to say, oh wow, you can contribute 100K a year into a retirement plan. Your effective tax rate is 30%. That's 30K of annual tax savings every year, right? So you
Yeah.
add that all up. Let's say that that comes out to 50K a year of tax savings. And then you take about, it's like an ROI approach of between 100% to up to 500% or more in the value you can bring to the table. So if the engagement's really easy, complexity is low, risk levels low, the intangible benefits you bring to the table are low. That's like unlimited email assistance or 4 meetings a year or whatever package type offering you want to bring to the table. You put those together and you're like, okay, that's all really low. This is going to be an easier engagement, but I found them 50K of financial gains. We'll price that more around the 400 to 500% return on investment line. And so that's what, $10,000 maybe around for a price
Yeah.
point. That's still 10 times more than what you would have priced before if you went the old fashioned way, right?
Correct.
You
Correct.
meet with a client, you look over their stuff, you give them, you're like, okay, it'll be about $1,000 for me to prep your return. I put no strategic thought into this for you. And everyone's like, ugh, I hate this transaction. I hate dealing with my accountant. I don't want to do this. Right. And that's when they come in with that shoebox the last minute before busy season. So
Oh,
you're
yeah.
flipping the script. You're making it so exciting from the beginning. You're like, I can save you $50,000 a year. I'm not going to guarantee that, obviously, but what I can guarantee is your satisfaction in us. You can tell how passionate I am about bringing this to the table for you. This is not going to be a boring, old fashioned transaction for y'all. This is going to be a transformational relationship where we impact your bottom line, your legacy for your clients and family. and you're going to pay us $10,000 a year, or maybe a $10,000 implementation fee, but you're going to get that 500% ROI, and I'm going to show it to you every year what I'm bringing to the table, and then maybe even bring some new stuff to the table for you next year. And that's
Yeah.
how the ROI method works. It is just so win-win. I'm so excited to get it out there. I've had it out there for years, but I get these excuses or maybe just misinformation about it as to why people won't do it. And
Mm-hmm.
really, one is they think it's a contingent fee, which is a no-no for CPAs. So let me
Mm-hmm.
clarify that. This is not a contingent fee. A contingent fee is pricing on the back end based on the tax savings that you show on the return. We are not
Right.
doing that. We are
Okay.
value pricing up front based on the value proposition and then a lot of other factors, right? The complexity, the risk, the intangible benefits. So there's a lot of holistic things that we're looking at here, not just the financial numbers, but the financial numbers is what gives you that tangible ROI that you can talk about and really excite people about. So no, it is not a contingent fee. And percentage of savings, there's a component with a weighted average of percentage, but that is completely ethical to do a percentage or weighted averages rating. It's when it goes into that contingent fee around tax savings on the back end that it becomes a problem. And so we're steering way clear of that. The AICPA just had a town hall this last week. I heard them in their Q&A and I reposted it on my LinkedIn that no, that is not a contingent fee. You can value price upfront for savings. Just don't guarantee it. You're good to go. And so yeah, next thing we know, we'll have a big old release or re-release of this method. And I'm hoping to really truly impact the whole profession with it.
Access latest and trending CPE courses with my CPE One Unlimited Access subscription. Subscribe now.
Yeah, and I guess once the client gets used to it, the conversation becomes more proactive itself. Like if there
Yes.
was a change happening in their life or they're really considering something, they would give you a call before, like, is this a good move to do or not? And it just adds in.
Exactly. And that's what's rolled into that value priced amount. So, the 10K upfront in that example, let's say it's about 10,000 a year. And they can call you anytime. They're going to text me when they are buying a new car just to see what the best model is. We know an SUV, tax accountants know SUVs are better for
Yeah,
depreciation than
yeah,
non-SUVs. It's those
yeah.
little things, but they don't actually bother you about things that you don't want to know about.
No.
They're very respectful of your time because they see
Yes,
your passion, they
yes,
see your worth because you're
yes.
charging more than probably everyone, all of your neighbors down the road. They're going to
Right.
respect that time. And of course, you can adjust for PITA fees, year to year. If they're constantly coming to you about the little things that maybe don't matter as much, you can always
Yeah.
up that value a little bit more. But yeah, they really don't take up too much of your time. They really ask you the things that you want to hear from them about, and it makes that relationship so much better.
Well, when you were talking about the history of value pricing and where it's been, you mentioned technology, and I know, have been a great, technology aficionado yourself. So let's talk technology and specifically AI, because that's something
Yeah.
that's everybody's talking about it. And a lot of people are also saying that, I mean, I see these videos about people saying that you should probably start using AI for your tax advisory. I don't know how much impactful is that, but
Yeah.
how do you see AI transforming the tax advisory services?
I
So,
have a really, really unique perspective because we have gone through 3 different iterations of trying to integrate AI into my software, TaxPlanIQ, for advisors this year.
uh-huh,
No one knows what they're doing. AI
uh-huh,
is very inconsistent. It
uh-huh,
is the latest model with ChatGPT o1 that's in preview
yep,
mode right now has an IQ of like 120. So it's
mm-hmm,
pretty darn good. And it's getting better and better. And so my perspective is we work with it to maximize its strengths and our strengths as human beings. And we don't try to ignore it because that's going to make you really inefficient. but recognize its weaknesses as well, just like you and I. I mean, uh, don't come to me to talk about like what kind of car you love or like Jaguar stuff. I know nothing about cars. Like that's not my thing. And so
Yes.
you don't ask me a ton of detailed questions about that. But hey, that
Yeah.
might be your thing, Saul, right? So I would come to you. Same thing with AI. Between me and AI, you can ask me those human questions, those gut feel reaction things, those things that require emotional intelligence that AI will never have. Well, never say never, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, I just saw this movie about this robot that it was like made me cry so hard. I started out this movie with my kids. I can't remember the name, but hopefully people that are listening or watching know it. And it just came out, and I was like, looked over at my husband like, this is going to be the most boring movie of my life. It's about a robot that lands in the woods and is like trying to take care of animals. And by the end, I'm like bawling, which I'm not a crier. And the robot had formed this like emotional attachment to this little baby duck, and it had learned how to like raise it as its own. And it was just like this really, really insightful movie. So check it out, y'all. Google it, figure it out. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why
I
you
mean,
say never, right? Yeah.
never say
So
never. They are training that. They are training that. But
yeah,
like
yeah.
AI is here to stay. It's here to
Mhm.
make our lives better. In fact, there is AI, then there is value pricing.
Yes.
I mean, I happened to speak to Jodie Potter a few weeks back.
I
She
just
spoke.
talked to her today. She
Oh, you
is
did?
the best. I love her. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about this, and she had this very unique perspective because somebody asked her that there was a time when we had to do compilations and everything, and it took us hours and hours, and now because of AI, we are able to do it in 2 minutes or something like that. So
Yeah.
should we put that on the bill?
Should we put what on the web? Like that we're using AI or what?
Like the 2 minutes of AI that we use for
Yeah.
creating a compilation report that usually would take hours or maybe days, and for which we were charging maybe $2,000, should we still put it on the bill? Because although we did it in 2 minutes, we still did something which was worth the work of 2 days or
Yeah. I
something.
mean, my answer would be yes, but that's because you have to combine that information overload that AI can give you with all those other factors that we just talked about. So, based on my experience, my, 20 almost 20 years in this industry or profession, I can take what AI says and then reinterpret it in my own way or tweak small things that could really make a huge impact on the client. I mean, today I was just doing a long form social post for LinkedIn on my 8 favorite tax strategies for capital gains. So
Okay.
I had done this one-on-one coaching call with a user of TaxPlanIQ last week. I got that transcription because I knew
Mm-hmm.
we had talked about a particular case study there that where I was like going through every tax strategy that I love. And talking about it with that person. And I copied and pasted that into ChatGPT. I said, hey, what kind of social ideas do you get out of this to like for people to bring a lot of value? And so it produced actually 3 strategies when really we had talked about at least 8. And so it's
Uh-huh.
those tiny little tweaks that you're like, wait a minute, there was a lot more to that story than what you brought to the table. Let's really deep dive into it. And so knowing how to prompt the AI and knowing how to compel it to give you more is really an art in itself. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I think that there's still a lot of value in what you can do by using technology, using AI on the back end. It's not about that. It's about the results you bring to the table with that experience and knowledge that you have too.
No, well, that's interesting. And you mentioned about, incorporating AI into TaxPlan IQ. So would you mind just
Yeah.
sharing what in
Yeah,
what ways
so
is
we have a chat bot. Her name's Jane, Jaine. And so she's
uh-huh.
kind of like the smartest tax manager that a firm could ever have. So you can
Uh-huh.
interact with her on any of the 130 plus tax strategies that we have in our library. She can point you to our knowledge base. She can point you to templates. She can actually do some baseline calculations around entity selection or things like that. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of our first like, okay, I've this technology is so cool. I've got to get it integrated somehow. That's
Yep.
like the easiest approach to do. Now,
Uh-huh.
second phase of that, where we did run into some trouble,
Mhm.
is automatically suggesting tax strategies off of the client's individual tax return. So
Oh,
we're at a point today, this morning, I verified we have released to where we can identify 50 tax strategies just off of someone's prior year tax return for our advisors in TaxPlanIQ, which is pretty revolutionary.
wow.
Yeah. So, but it takes a lot more than just throwing the 1040 at ChatGPT and being like, tell me some ideas. There's
Yeah.
like so many steps in there that you have to go through and so many iterations. So first, you have to be able to read the fields on the return. So there's OCR text extraction technology, which has nothing to do with AI.
Yep.
Then there's this kind of data validation, these if-then formulas. So I had to come up with these like, how do I figure out if a strategy applies for a client? Oh, if
Yep.
this, then and that, or that, like an
Yep.
Excel, a whole Excel
Yeah.
formula in your head, which is so fun to me. And
Uh-huh.
then I translated that. And then we brought in AI just for one aspect of that to kind of add on top of that. So it's like,
Uh-huh.
okay, here's the if then. It's a very practical, logical formula. It actually doesn't need AI for that. But
Uh-huh.
AI can fill in the gaps or answer questions about that interaction, right? And so
Yep.
that's what we did, and it's really really been a fun ride. It's been very expensive, and we made some mistakes. We failed and had to, overcome, but I'm feeling really good about it today, and I'm excited to see what the next kind of layer of innovation is this next year, because we've seen it all over just the last 1 year with natural language processing, large language models, and I can't wait to see what's next.
Yeah, absolutely. Like me neither. I mean, like there's a lot in store for us, and they're all just excited. Let's see how it goes. Now, with your practice and with this beautiful mix of technology and everything, your clients, I'm sure, like the client relationships that you have with your clients, I mean, they are really great. And client relationships are, at the heart of any successful practice.
Yes.
But how does proactive tax planning help deepen that relationship between the accountants and their clients?
Well, I mean, we all throw around that term trusted advisor, but what does that really mean? Or at the end of the day, like, how is someone really a trusted advisor? Well, it's when they're proactively going out of their way to do better for you. And
Mm-hmm.
advisory services in general are always proactive, which
Mm-hmm.
is a great start to that. Tax advisory, like I said, is the easiest return on investment you can find. And it's like people's least favorite thing to do. And so that is truly the definition of being a trusted advisor, is when you're going the extra mile, you're passionate about what you're doing, the client knows they can always rely on you, and that you're not just going to reactively file some paperwork and shuffle some stuff around. You are going to ask those questions. You're going to go find that extra advisor they might need. You're going to go work with their financial advisor. You're going to ask them what their estate plan is like, even though they really don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
No one wants to create
No,
an estate plan, but
no.
you can't just skirt the issue. You're their trusted advisor. You have to quarterback all of these things and make sure that the client's happy, that these other advisors are happy, and that we're doing the best that we possibly can for that client.
No, absolutely. In fact, tax, the word itself, it's so fearful. Anybody hears the word tax and there's a fear.
Yeah.
It's intimidating for a lot of people today, even today. Like if somebody were to talk about, if you were to talk to anybody, okay, let's talk about your taxes. They're like, you know, but I guess, with your approach and the way you become that trusted advisor, you help the clients overcome that fear of taxes. And I guess that helps to build that trust with that proper tax planning and everything, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, this is my philosophy with tax strategies. There's so much gray area. There's very black and white things, and then there's a lot of gray area. And
Mm-hmm.
so all I can do is know what I know, which is the fact that, oh, this happened, that I can associate that with probably 6 or 7 strategies that might apply.
Mm-hmm.
I can bring those to my client. I can tell the client how aggressive or conservative that strategy is in the grand scheme of things based on my experience level or what I'm seeing in my community. I have, by the way, an accounting community on Facebook called Accounting Firm Influencers. We have about
Okay.
8,000 of us that talk about this stuff all the time. So you know exactly what's going on and stay up to date. But yeah, and so let's see. I got a little off track there, but
No,
um,
that's okay.
yeah, what was the initial question?
But well, I was just like getting your take on it because I was just saying that, with your relationship building, it's, I think, the
Oh,
way
yeah,
you,
that fear. Yeah.
yeah, the
And so,
fear.
yeah, I present the information to the client. They decide based on best case scenario and worst case scenario, which you can estimate pretty easily for the client. They decide what risks they want to take on that. They decide
Yeah.
if they want to get 10 IRS notices, even if it's a really conservative strategy, but you know that you're going to end up getting a bunch of notices for some reason, then, you need to tell the client that and have them make that decision. And so, yeah, you're helping absorb that fear by bringing that experience to the table and assuring them that you've got their back.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you mentioned about your Facebook group wherein you got this beautiful community and you're always talking about what's happening in the industry. So if I could just tickle a little bit about that, what do you see the changes? What do you foresee the changes are going to be happening in the tax advisory landscape over the next 5 years?
Well, I think that compliance work will be taken over quite a bit by technology.
Okay.
At the end of the day, that's exactly what we did with tax advisory. And some people would say, oh, well, advisory is even harder to do than compliance work. I mean, it's reading a W 2 line item and telling it where to route it in a tax prep software, which a lot of softwares already do. Maybe
Yeah.
not perfectly, but it's getting better and better every single day. And so
Mm-hmm.
you have to think about, well, where does that leave me?
Mm-hmm.
Most of us don't love inputting numbers into a tax return. Like, that's not what we love about what we do. We love
Yeah.
helping people. And this is like our weird way of helping people is through the numbers, right?
Yes.
And so you have to think about, where will I continue to add value in the next decade, right? If those numbers seem to import directly into the tax returns or the audit process gets completely standardized, where can I really continue to add that value? And it's through that advisory relationship. And so advisory is the way to go. I think there's going to be a merge or blending more between financial advisors and accountants. I think that our CFPs, CPAs, EAs are not going to matter quite as much in that advisory space. And I'm kind of excited about that. I mean, I am a CPA. I'm so proud of my designation. I'm proud of all the hard work I put into it. But 10 years from now, I don't know if that designation, unless we make some significant changes to it towards advisory, that designation is going to matter quite as much, because you don't need it to do tax advisory, to do any kind of advisory at the moment. So
Yeah.
you've got to figure out your place in that advisory world and start moving towards it.
Well, I mean, it's a competitive world and things are changing. Technology is moving at a fast pace. So for accountants who are looking to stay competitive, and especially when you're talking about advisory.
Yeah.
But you can't just become an advisor, right? I mean, you need to have some skills that you need to focus on developing if you want to get into it. And with the way industry is going, what do you think? What skills should accountants be focusing on developing as this industry evolves and they want to remain competitive?
Well, I think if you just take a step back and think, how have I most helped clients in like tangible ways in the past?
Uh-huh.
Was it through an amazing tax strategy that I found? Like, and how did you feel about that, right? Like, what really jazzes you up about what you do? And how do you turn that into tangible results? And
Mhm.
most accountants can probably think of one or two examples where they worked with a client and they felt like they were on this high the whole time. The client was so happy with their work. They felt like they really belonged there. They really helped. They really like brought their purpose to the table. And so that's where you start. And then you're like, okay, how do I make that into a specific service offering and make it
Uh-huh.
repeatable? Right.
Mhm.
And so whether that's uh, specializing in construction companies and their work in progress WIP, there's a lot that can be done there. You can save people hundreds of $1,000s there. So you can really narrow in on like 1, 2, 3 things. Don't be a jack of all trades. Find what those like few things are that you can really, really show a tremendous value in and just like go for it. Bring it to the table for like one client or one potential client. And then you'll get that confidence to repeat it. You'll learn how to standardize it in your own firm, and then you'll be unstoppable from there.
Well, you earlier on mentioned in the conversation about how you also went through that transformation of doing everything yourself to learning to trust a team and delegating it. And
Yeah.
now with AI coming in and you mentioning, and also we are seeing that, AI is now learning and it's kind of trying to make our lives easier, in one way. But then there's always this fear, there's this discussion that everybody's it's going to replace a lot of humans and their jobs and everything. It's a job killer, it's a career killer. But I mean, like, I always love to know your views on it, that, what do you see? What is your take on that?
Well, it reminds me of this AI CPA thought leadership forum that I went to last year in New York.
Uh-huh.
We had an executive from OpenAI come talk to us, and it was so like I was like fangirling out about it because you don't get to see the inside of like what the executives at OpenAI are doing and their thought
Yeah,
process. And he
yeah,
said something so interesting. He believes that 10 years from now, he will be playing volleyball with his kids for like 4 hours a day while AI is automating all of his processes, but that it's going to be okay because you'll be able to do more of the things you love and more of your hobbies and aspirations while also still getting that work done that you're expected to do or manage as a human being, right? And so that what a world that would be, right? Where we're all
yeah,
just like doing hobbies for a living and everything's automated for us. But
yeah,
it's hard, it's kind of hard to imagine that at the moment, but I
yeah,
think we will work more and more towards that.
yeah,
And I think that would be a really fun society. I mean, I'd love to have people sitting around brainstorming how to solve world hunger or other problems like that and really going after it, more philanthropical stuff versus all this nitty gritty data entry and junk that we have to deal with every single day.
No, it's true. It's true. I wouldn't deny, since the dawn of AI and especially since ChatGPT has picked up, initially it was difficult. I mean, the first moment was wow, wow, this is what it's doing.
Yeah.
Then you realize that, oh, it's not so perfect.
Hmm.
There's a lot to be learned. Then you realize how to use it, how to make your life better, how to make it easier. Like, you're literally transforming your thought from working hard to working smart. You
Yes.
know, you're getting there, and I guess that's exact, and I completely agree to what you're saying. To be able to get that time more to love doing what you love doing, just our following our hobbies and dreams. But this has been great. Well, Jackie, this has been an insightful conversation, so thank you for sharing your expertise with us today. But before we wrap up, can you share your final thoughts on the future of tax planning and advisory?
It's the next big thing, y'all. So, jump on the train. Let's get this moving. I'm still looking for all my peeps out there that love this stuff. There's not enough of us. We need a lot more people doing it. It is so rewarding as a profession. So yeah, I mean, go to MyCPE, learn. I'm doing a monthly overview session on different tax
Yes.
themes that will help you move towards tax advisor on MyCPE. And so
Good.
that's a great source for just kind of dipping your toes in the water, getting started. But yeah, just start somewhere, figure out what you really love about it, and go for it. And I'm here to support you along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I let you go, the TaxPlanIQ software, uh, where can our listeners learn more about TaxPlanIQ and the resources that you offer?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. So taxplaniq.com, and we have a new subscription level called a growth plan, and
Mhm.
it is significantly cost effective, but includes 5 hours of CPE for up to 5 users at your firm. We go everything from how to sell, how to implement a plan, the tax technical side of things, and we are seeing tremendous results. People selling tax plans for 70 grand, or someone selling 3 plans and making over 150K. And guess what? Their clients are really, really happy about that, paying all that extra money too. So, yes, join us, join the revolution. It's a lot of fun.
Well, talk about ROI. You heard it first on my CPs. We're trying to figure it out. Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Jackie, for
Thank
joining us
you.
today. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of We're Trying to Figure Out. Until next time, keep innovating in everything you do. Cheers.
Access latest and trending CPE courses with my CPE One Unlimited Access subscription. Subscribe now